to the Inner Circle Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, LJ, and this podcast is brought to you by Sportsslaw. Today, we're here to talk fantasy starts, sits, and sleepers. I'm here to help you win your league. I'm here to have fun. Let's get into these picks. And Lomas and Deb are going to help me out on today's amazing show.
Okay, we're ready for you.
We are ready.
All
we
right.
Are ready.
Well, first start of the week is going to be Ezekiel Elliott. And the reason why he is my start of the week, first off, unfortunately, we lost Dak Prescott. And I really felt that one in the heart because he was playing this year on a franchise tag. If there was anybody I wanted to win, I wanted Dak to win. And I wanted him to win. Bad as I want my grandma pancakes in Virginia, and I'm sitting here in Michigan bad. But he hurt his ankle. Injuries are part of football. I know Dak carried a lot of people personally because I'm 4-1 in one league, and 3 of those wins were because Dak got me over 40 fantasy points. So when I say that loss is huge, it's huge. The ball has to be moved by a man who's like built like a brick wall, and that's Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott has done it in this league for a long time. Every year, he's had a top 5 fantasy finish. That was even when he's missed time due to suspension. He got suspended for 3 games, and he still finished in the top 5. That's insane. Other backs had 3 other games to gain yardage and touchdowns on him. So now he's the focal point of the offense. He is the offense. Andy Dalton is not going to throw the ball 47 to 50 times like Dak did. Ezekiel Elliott, who has yet to top 100 yards. A lot of fantasy people don't know that, but Zeke has not had 100 yards rushing in any game this season. That will happen versus Arizona Cardinals today. They can't afford to stack the box on Zeke because you have CeeDee Lamb, you have Cooper, and you have Gallup on the outside. Patrick Peterson's going to shadow Cooper, of course, to try to take him out of the game. But you still have to respect those 3. Not to mention, they eat up targets of 3 of them. So even if they did stack the box, they don't have the 7-man front to stop Zeke. So not only do I expect him to go over 100 yards this week, I expect him to get at least 2 touchdowns. Zeke is a threat out of the backfield as well. So even if they did stack the box, it's not that they can't motion him out, and he could do damage through the air, which he has shown as well. Andy Dalton made Joe Mixon a fantasy star his rookie year. I don't think he's going to check down to the tight end like he used to, because when Andy Dalton was in Cincinnati, he threw to Tyler Eifert all day long because CeeDee Lamb, which is why he's been a fantasy sleeper turn superstar so far. Jerry Jones drafted him in the first round. And even when CeeDee Lamb was double teamed by, had Dak throwing to him, he was still getting targets in the double team. That shows me that the owner, Jerry Jones, came down and he said, you will get CeeDee Lamb the ball. Amari Cooper got $60 million in the offseason. His targets are nowhere near where they should be as a true number 1 receiver because CeeDee Lamb is eating into those targets. So if they stack 8 in the box, Zeke is going to get them through the air. If they don't stack 8 in the box, and I don't think they will, because like I said, they don't have the personnel to do it. And they're ranked 10th against fantasy running backs. That's the 10th easiest. Not the 10th hardest. They're near the bottom of the league. They're ranked 21st against the run. It's a wrap. That's easy money all day. Like Shaq says, barbecue chicken all day.
So, Bar, my biggest concern and my biggest question for you is that we know Dallas doesn't have a good defense. They have one of the worst defense in the NFL, if not the worst defense in the NFL. So if they're playing the Arizona Cardinals, which we know Kyler Murray and those guys could put up points, then it sounds like Dallas is going to have to throw the ball to be able to keep up with the Arizona Cardinals. What do you say about that when you say Ezekiel has to have a big day? If they're playing from behind and they have to throw the ball to try to catch up with Arizona Cardinals.
It's a copycat league, and what I think is going to happen, what you just said, a lot of fantasy analysts spoke about last week's matchup versus Minnesota and Seattle. They were like, Kirk Cousins should be a good fantasy play because Minnesota's going to have to throw to keep up with Russell Wilson, who's playing at an MVP-like caliber. However, that first half, Russell Wilson had no touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
They rarely had any first downs. I saw Delvin Cook. He got 17 carries in the first half. That was a season high. And at halftime, Seattle had 25 snaps. Minnesota had 60. their time of possession doubled them. I see Dallas doing the same exact thing. You have an air raid offense you're going against. Tyler Murray and that whole offense is predicated on speed and time. They want to be on the field and they want to chuck it deep. They want to get as many pass plays as they can. But if you're running the ball at that clip with a good offensive line, now granted, Dallas is missing 2 of their key stars. Frederick retired, and then it's not O'Neal, but his name just jumped through my mind. Yeah. Right, the tackle.
Yes.
He's been out with his neck because his neck has been suspect, and they don't want to risk it. But they don't want to put him on the IR either. So week to week, he's been out. But if you hold the ball, which they can with Zeke, nobody's going to stop him from getting first downs. And I think they're going to do exactly what Minnesota did. They doubled the time of possession because they kept Russell Wilson on the sideline. Russell Wilson didn't win that game into the 3rd and 4th quarter. And even if Tyler Murray jumps out to a quick score, you can only do so much damage when you have the ball in your hand. It's the same thing that teams did against Aaron Rodgers after they won the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl because he was tearing people up with Jordy Nelson and Jennings. That next following year, people were running the ball at a high clip just to keep them on the sideline. They would dink and dunk. It'd be the first quarter. It's 7-0. We'll say Minnesota's up 7-0 on the Packers. Aaron Rodgers only had maybe 10 snaps because Minnesota held the ball for so long. So I think that's what Dallas is going to do. They know they don't have the defense to keep up with Kyler Murray. So if you continue to run that ball and get them first downs versus a team that's ranked 21st against the run, which is the 10th easiest in the league, the time of possession is going to kill you. And that's going to eat up their offense right there. I'm not saying that Kyler Murray is going to be on the sideline for the whole game. He's going to get his, but I could see a second half resurgent because they just going to hold the ball so much in the first half until Arizona tries to figure out how to put up points or how to slow their own offense down. But I could see Zeke getting anywhere 20 to 25 carries this game. That's ball control. And they keep him on the sideline.
Let's just hope that Murray gets some good airtime because he's on my team.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he will. I'm not saying he's not going to put up the points. He's going to put up the points. But
good.
Just like I said, with Minnesota eating that ball control, he's limited. You can only do so much damage when you're on the field. If you're not on the field for the whole first half, or Ezekiel Elliott and them churning out 10-minute drives, which they could. First down, first quarter's over in a blink of an eye. Like I said, Russell Wilson had maybe, 4 fantasy points at halftime, and they were all off passing yards. He didn't have the rock. He was sitting on the bench.
Okay, did you have another start?
Yes, I do. Adam Thielen is my second start of the week. The Vikings are playing the Atlanta Falcons. To say the Atlanta Falcons defense is trash is an understatement. They are something that.
Okay, note to self: do not play Falcons defense.
Oh, I don't know. You think the Falcons defense worse than Dallas defense?
I do, just because at least Dallas can get some kind of pressure on the quarterback. Atlanta, every fantasy receiver and every fantasy running back that has played the Atlanta defense, and these are 2 skill positions, not 1, 2 skill positions. They finish in the top 10 every single week. Every single week. At least Dallas can say they got some sacks on the books. I can't say the same for Atlanta. Their sacks may be very minimal, but people have been killing. Case in point, DJ Moore, who's my sit this week, last week, he had bombed all year. DJ Moore really hasn't produced all year. Last week, he had 120 yards. This man took a simple screen versus Atlanta. He broke 60 yards. Gone to the house. They missing too many starters on that side of the ball. Both of their corners are out. One is out with COVID. And the other one, he tweaked his hamstring. So you working with 2 people who really couldn't stop anybody, but they couldn't stop anybody when they had healthy corners, let alone hurt ones. So, yeah, I think Atlanta is worse than Dallas. And I know that's bad because Dallas is bad. But at least Dallas last week in fantasy got you a touchdown versus Daniel Jones. They put up some decent point versus Daniel Jones and the Giants. They got some sacks. But Atlanta, oh, no.
So what about the fact that Dalvin Cook is questionable with the groin? You have Alexander Madison, who's the backup running back to Dalvin Cook, who's a pretty good running back, but he's not Dalvin Cook. So how do you expect the Atlanta's defense to defense them? Do you think they're going to sit back for the pass and dare You think they're going to bring pressure on Kirk Cousins? What do you expect the Atlanta's defense to do with no Dalvin Cook back there?
Because Alexander Madison has tape, he played last year and we spelled Dalvin Cook, and he did well. Just like that's why nobody in the fantasy community was surprised when he came in last night. Not last night, when he came in on that Sunday night game, and he had over 100 yards rushing, and he didn't even play the whole game, and he still had over 100 yards rushing. Alexander Madison is the real deal. Raheem Morris, to answer your question, he's a defensive-minded coach, and for those of you who don't know, who missed it, Dan Quinn, the Falcons head coach, he was fired this week. Raheem Morris is now the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. So with him knowing that they have another beast back there in Alexander Madison, and to your point, he's not a Pro Bowler, but he's not garbage either. Alexander Madison is legit, which is why he was drafted in leagues as a handcuff. You don't draft your handcuffs, but he was drafted. So I think Atlanta will they'll probably pull people back. They won't be concerned at the line of scrimmage. But Mike Zimmer already came out when he announced if Dalvin Cook's not going to play, we're not going to miss a beat. That lets me know they're still going to be a little bit more run heavy than pass heavy. But Adam Thielen, he coming off a 2-touchdown performance last week versus Seattle. And last I looked at the PPR rankings, he's number 3 in PPR as a receiver. He's always going to get his targets. And with Dalvin Cook not being in the game, and even though he's going to have double coverage, he's going to be covered by corners that are subpar, to say something kind of kindly. Like, they're still trash. So I think Thielen will go off. But to answer your question, I could see him blitzing to try to stop the pass, but I could kind of see him not blitzing a lot because Mike Zimmer already came out and said it, that we're going to run the ball. They fired their offensive coordinator from last year, who was now the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, because he didn't run the ball as much as Mike Zimmer wanted him to run. If you let an offensive coordinator go who's now 4-1 as a head coach in the league, that means your point has gotten across to the organization you'll run first team. And when he said they're not going to miss a beat, Alexander Madison's going to get his.
Okay, so who should I sit this week?
All right, well, we're going to go with Joe Mixon as my first sit of the week. He is playing the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts allowed the 3rd fewest fantasy points to running backs, and they're a legit defense. Now, some people may say, oh, they don't have Darius Leonard. He's been out the last week. He's probably going to miss this week. That's a big hole in their defense. And I beg to differ. They have two rookie linebackers who have played well. They played well last week versus the Browns. And yes, Kareem Hunt scored, but he really didn't do a lot of damage on the ground. It took him 13 carries to get like 70 yards. So I see them tightening up. And another reason why I picked the Colts as to struggle against Joe Mixon is this is a copycat league again. I just saw Joe Burrow get the crap beat out of him out of Baltimore. And Baltimore is a top defense, just like Indianapolis is. And a lot of people said Indianapolis is going to struggle versus Baker Mayfield. They held their own versus Baker Mayfield. So I truly think that Joe Mixon is going to struggle. Plus, people are going to chase the points. Prior to the Baltimore game, Joe Mixon had 42.1 fantasy points in one game. And he struggled against Baltimore because Baltimore had the defense to stop him and Joe Burrow. The Colts had that same kind of defense. And with Phillip Rivers being a turnover machine and their offensive coordinator saying we will find more ways to get our rookie running back Taylor involved, that's less turnovers for Phillip Rivers, more ball control for Indianapolis.
Did you see our question from our Dr. R, Doc R?
Okay, so
what do you think about my Cowboys?
I honestly see I honestly see Andy Dalton maybe going 7-9, and you can make the playoffs in the NFC East at 7-9. They're going to run the ball. Andy Dalton's going to put up points because they have to throw. You got to keep that balance. They got to save Zeke for the season. They can't give Zeke 30 carries every single week because you could wear him down possibly toward the end of the season. So I think the Cowboys have a legitimate shot. A lot of people are underestimating the Eagles. Alshon Jeffrey is going to come back because this is the last year of his contract. He's trying to get paid. So he's got to show what little bit he can before he gets cut. The 2 linemen that Philadelphia have hurt will be back. They didn't have season-ending injuries. So I wouldn't count out Philadelphia. Washington is in rebuild mode, and so is the Giants. There's no Saquon, and Daniel Jones has struggled mightily. So to say the Cowboys making the playoffs, that's not impossible. They have a shot. Andy Dalton's a veteran. He's been to the playoffs a couple of times. He's had some down seasons in Cincinnati, but he's been to the playoffs as well. He's a winner, and he's not a turnover guy. He's going to get them producing. But the reason why everybody's skeptical in that division is because two things. Dallas's defense is terrible, and Carson Wentz's offensive line is bad. Yeah, that too.
It's a terrible division. I think Dr. R was being sarcastic when he said NFC East. They call that the NFC least.
Right.
Teams that are doing good. So I agree with you on that Dallas should have a stronghold in that division. Even I agree more so with Dallas than even Philadelphia, because I think Dallas could have a stronger defense. Now, I talked about how weak their defense is, but they still got a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. If you think about it, from the linebacker position, DeMarcus Lawrence is over there, and they have some in the secondary. So I do think Dallas could be the team that come out of there. But LeVar, they might come out of there with a six-win season and still win the division. That would be so crazy if 6 wins
10
win a division. That would be crazy. And they would host a home game. Think about that. They would host a home playoff game. So,
and our COVID restrictions should come down by that time of the year. So it's not like you're not going to have an empty stadiums like you used to right now.
Right.
A lot more people in the stands too.
That'll make a difference. So who are your sleepers this week?
Well, I got one more sit, DJ Moore. The reason why we're sitting DJ Moore is because he had one great game, which was against the Falcons. The Bears are top 5 against fantasy wide receivers. Yes. Teddy Bridgewater is going to be running for his life. Khalil Mack has been playing hurt, but the reports I've been hearing out of it camp last week and this week is his knee is getting better. Khalil Mack was hitting Tom Brady, and Tom Brady was moving around the pocket. He didn't sit back there and kill them. He was struggling. And I expect Teddy Bridgewater to do the same. Not to mention, he's a dink and dunk guy. And Robbie Anderson, to anybody in fantasy that has Robbie Anderson, he is your number one in that offense. Last week, DJ Moore had 6 targets. Robbie Anderson had 13. That lets me know right there. And not to mention, just last week, he has more targets than anybody in that offense. He's the number one in that offense. And they're going to take DJ Moore out of the game. Kendall Fuller and Scrine, they both can cover. And they have a rookie on their cornerback. He's in the slot, but they're starting to move him to the outside because he's gaining confidence. So with that tough defense and him dinking and dunking, not to mention throwing more to Robbie Anderson than he is DJ Moore, 13 targets versus 5 versus the Falcons. If you're getting 13 targets versus the Falcons and he has a lot more pressure in his face, he's going to trust the guy who has the most targets, which is Robbie Anderson, than he is going to be a guy that he rarely targets. So DJ Moore is my last sit.
I also like Chuck Bacano, who's the defensive coordinator for the Bears. He was the Indianapolis head coach, and coach likes to bring pressure. So to your point about Teddy Bridgewater being under distress this week, I could see that because he likes to bring pressure from a lot of different angles. And I think that's what's helping Khalil Mack too. I think that's what's helping him. Because a lot of teams, when Eddie Goldman, and don't forget they had Goldman that opted out. He was the other guy that got the inside push. So that's kind of hurt Khalil Mack a lot this year too. So I can see what you're saying as far as sitting DJ Moore, because I think Teddy Bridgewater, their quarterback, will be under a lot of pressure.
And Robert Quinn, that's a name. He is getting into football shape. Robert Quinn is no slouch. He had double-digit sacks last year. So
I agree.
Once he gets into that game shape, it's a wrap.
Okay, so let's go to the sleepers of the week.
All right, we got Damian Harris, running back, New England Patriots. They're going against the Broncos. Now, I know I can hear people yelling into the TV right now. LJ, they got James White. They got Rex Burkhead. Too many running backs. Who's going to get the ball? Cam is a running back because he's getting goal line touchdowns. All of those points are true. But here's what I'm looking at. Sony Michel got put on the IR, not because he was hurt, but because they wanted to see what Harris has. And last week, the last game they played, he had 100 yards. That's sharing time with Rex Burkhead and sharing time with James White. The thing I like about Harris is he's on the field for pass protection and he's on the field to run the ball. Sony Michel would get pulled when it was time for either pass pro or he had to go out for a route. Harris did not come off for that. So that means A, he has Bill Belichick's trust. And then B, he's shown the coaching staff enough to take a fully healthy running back and put him on the IR. And then they bring up, oh, he has a calf issue. Smells like BS to me. So if you're putting somebody on the IR and you bring in a guy who's in his second year and they drafted him in the 3rd round, we ain't talking about no 7th round pick trying to be the miracle on ice. We talking about a legit back from Alabama. And Nick Saban, he bring great backs out of Alabama. So I like Damian Harris out of that backfield. I don't think the 100 yards he got was a fluke. And he sat on the IR. He waited his turn all last year. He's ready and he's hungry. And against the Broncos, who are not going to have their starting quarterback, even if Ripken or their backup Jeff plays, either or quarterback is not Drew Mock. And with Melvin Gordon being the only real threat on that offense, Noah Fant probably might be out. Jerry Jeudy is going to be covered by Stephen Gilmore if Stephen Gilmore plays, and I think he will because they had an extra week with the bye week. Yeah. That's a shutdown corner. That means that offense is going to be on the field. And when Bill Belichick is up, sometimes he runs up the score, sometimes he runs out the clock. I think he's going to run out the clock to see what Harris has. He already knows what he has in Burkhead and White. He wants to see what Harris has, and that's why I like him as a sleeper for volume alone in that 3-headed monster backfield.
So this is my thing about that then. Do you think that this formula, and I mean with the Patriots, I'm talking about Bill Belichick and them basically just running the ball. Cam hadn't thrown it that much. They're basically a run team. It's almost seems like Baltimore in a lot of ways, how they use Lamar Jackson. Do you think that would be successful? Do you think the Patriots could win after 20 years of Tom Brady and the type of offense they ran under Brady? Do you think this new offense with Cam Newton can work in New England?
I think it can work to get you into the playoffs. I do not think it's enough to get you a Super Bowl. To get that Lombardi, you have to be balanced on defense and offense. And playoff teams, I think it's the thing about the playoffs in this NFL, NBA. When you're in the playoffs, everything is magnified and a lot more attention to detail is explained. Teams will take away your best option. Case in point, Lamar Jackson ran through the whole league. When they played Tennessee last year, Tennessee played him tough. He was getting hit. When he was going out for option plays, there were people in his face. They had more time to analyze that matchup. So I think Cam, and they have enough. Buffalo is killing in their division right now. Miami is starting to show some life. Cam has enough to get him into the playoffs. I mean, hell, they got Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick and Cam together with Josh McDaniels, they have a formula to success. So, yes, I think they can get to the playoffs with that run style of offense. I just don't see them getting far in the playoffs because you have to be balanced throwing and running. And when you take away Julian Edelman, which teams are going to take away from, Damiere Byrd is up and coming. He's been in the league for a while, but he's not somebody that's ready to take that step forward in the superstardom. And in N'Keal Harry, we talk about a man that's volatile. Sometimes he show up, he do damage. Sometimes he's dropping first downs. That's not something you can depend on in the playoff. You're expecting a second-year player who was hurt majority of his rookie year. That's less reps. That's less time with your quarterback to shine during the playoffs when the lights are the brightest. I don't think he has enough. I don't think they have enough as an offense to go to that Super Bowl, but I do expect them to make the playoffs.
Okay, and you had one more sleeper, I believe.
Yes, my last sleeper is going to be Mecole Hardman. Now, I can hear people yelling again, LJ, Mecole Hardman has Travis Kelce, CEH, Patrick Mahomes like to spread the ball around. Why would you play Mecole Hardman? Those are all facts. Also, another fact that you may not know, he only played 40% of the snaps last week. But here's the thing. Sammy Watkins is out. He's going to miss the next couple of weeks with a hamstring injury. And I've also seen Mecole Hardman catch sweeps for a touchdown. He has a goal line carry on a reverse. He's their deep option. Teams are going to start to double team Tyreek Hill. Well, I'm not going to say start. They double team him regardless. He still does his thing because he's Tyreek Hill. But with Sammy Watkins out, and they know they have to get Mecole Hardman on the field, they're going to get him on the field. So, yes, he's a deep threat. I know he's risky money, which is why he's a sleeper. But with no Sammy Watkins to eat up 5 to 7 targets per game, and Andy Reid speaking in the preseason before the season even started, when we were going through all this COVID, he said, I expect McCole Hardman to take a leap forward this year. We've been hard on him about transitioning because of the health of Sammy Watkins. And lo and behold, we in week 6, Sammy Watkins hurt, just like last year when he was hurt again. This time, McColl's not a rookie. This time, McCole can read the defense. He can be where Patrick Mahomes needs him to be. And they are pissed that they lost to the Raiders. Vegas lost money on that game. I know this is fantasy football, but Vegas lost money on that game because a lot of people bet the Chiefs will win, and they lost. So when I say they're angry, they're going to be angry. But Mahomes, yes, Kelsey's going to get his, and Tyreek Hill is too. But I expect 1 or 2 deep shots from McCole Hardman or a running play because their running back, CEH, Edwards-Helaire, he can't get in the end zone. He gets yardage, but around that 5-yard line, he's been suspect. So I expect McCole Hardman to do big things with Sammy Watkins out.
Well, it seems like that's everybody looks at the glitz and the glamour of Kansas City's offense with all those weapons. But to me, it starts with the run game. You know, that's where it starts at. It seems like the run game sets up everything else. It gets Patrick Mahomes comfortable back there. Then it enables McCole Hardman and the Cheetah and Kelsey and all those other guys to run wild in the backfield. So it seems like Clyde Edwards is the key to this offense working if you want to get a guy like McCole Hardman included into this offense.
Agreed. And like I said, but from the 20-yard line to the 20-yard line, Edwards-Helaire is money. He moves the sticks, but when you get close to that goal line, he has struggled. He has been stopped inside the 5-yard line more than 7 times this year. He could have easily had 7 touchdowns, but he's been stopped. So, like I said, when 2 weeks ago, McCole Hardman scored on a sweep. Now, granted, he only had 4 catches for 27 yards, but he had that touchdown. And touchdowns, king in fantasy.
Touchdowns, yep.
Yeah, with no Sammy Watkins there to eat into his passing offense. And Patrick Mahomes, CH can have 20 carries. Patrick Mahomes still can get his. I mean, they gave him over $500 million. They're going to show him off, and they're going to throw the deep ball. And like I said, you got the added motivation of them getting their butts whipped by the Raiders. So, yeah, I think McColl's going to get his. But CH will too. Just throw that fantasy nugget out there. Some people are kind of panicking. They spent a top 5 pick. I seen one draftee, CH, winning number 3 overall. They picked him over Alvin Kamara. So they're expecting him to put up Alvin Kamara numbers. And he hasn't in the touchdown department. He has in the yards. But I think he'll have a good week as well. Buffalo is reeling after what happened with Tennessee. Again, copycat league. Andy Reid's going to look at how Tennessee, who had no facility to practice in for a week and a half, and they came out on Tuesday night and looked like they had been practicing all week in one stadium. They looked like they was using the Lions Stadium because the Tennessee Titans Stadium was shut down, and they whooped up on Buffalo. So I know Andy Reid going to look at that film and he can be like, okay, I see what Derrick Henry did. I see what A.J. Brown did. I can do the same. And we're talking about an A.J. Brown who hadn't played all year. He has not played all year, and he went against Buffalo and had 7 for 82 and a touchdown with a bone bruise on his knee. Now, Lomas, I know you know a thing or two about injuries. A bone bruise on your knee, and you're a receiver, you're not supposed to be doing no damage your first game back. So if he can do that his first game back, and I got top 2 offense in the league, and Kansas City can make the argument they probably are the best offense in the league, McColl and CH should get theirs this week.
Okay, I guess our producer's telling us we got to close this thing up. So real fast, let's do a recap.
All right, recap. Starts of the week: Zeke versus the Cardinals, and I got Adam Thielen versus Atlanta. My sits: Joe Mixon versus the Colts. My other sit is going to be DJ Moore versus Chicago Bears, and my sleepers we got D Harris versus the Broncos, McCall Hardman versus Buffalo. If you're looking for a defense to stream, really quick, Miami Dolphins play the Jets. The Jets suck. Go Miami. All right. Well, that is all. I'm your host, LJ. This has been a great first Inner Circle Fantasy Football podcast. I plan on doing a lot more. Thank you for Deb. Thank you for Lomas. Love you both. I am your fantasy flamethrower. This is the Inner Circle Fantasy Podcast, dropping knowledge, helping people win. This is brought to you by Sportsslaw. Good luck, good wins this week. See you soon.